Welcome to the Down South Hunting Podcast, presented to you by the Onyx Hunt app. And we have something going to happen for the first time in the history of the Down South Hunting Podcast. I'm going to be doing this whole episode solo. So don't delete it yet. I think I got a pretty good topic for you. Just kidding, you can delete it if you want. But I think I've got something that's probably going to help a lot of y'all out. I know it's something that's helped me over the years. We're going to talk about how you can save on hunting gear, especially in the off-season now. And I've got a lot of tips for you. This is something I had the idea of and started jotting some things down. And I'm not sure how long this is going to take. I guess you can probably see the time on it, but I don't know what it's going to be. But it turned out there's quite a few tips, and I think I've got something probably for everybody. So this being the first time doing this, I'm really going to do my best not to say anything stupid. My goal is to go through this whole thing without having to go back and edit it and be able to publish it right away. I've been crazy busy at work. Last week I announced that I'm going to be going out on my own, but what I'm doing is I've got to train my replacement, and also I'm trying to keep all these other side businesses going well enough because I'm going to be counting on that to be feeding my family in the next month or so. So anyway, with that happening, I've had a hard time getting some guests lined up, although I do have some great podcast ideas, and also I was able to make some great contacts at ATA that I know are going to make great episodes in the future. Also, next week, I'm going to be talking to Adam and Kyle, and we're going to try to wrap up our whole season, although I do still have one hunt left in February, so I'm pretty excited about that. I don't have any hunts in between now and then. I definitely need to get it done, though. My freezer is just about empty, and I cannot remember the last time that we've had to go through a year and buy beef from the store. I'm not looking forward to that. So I think with this permit, I can only take one deer. So unfortunately, I think inevitably I'm going to be buying some beef from the store. But I do want some venison for sure. So speaking of ATA too, that's funny. I made a note that said speaking of ATA, but I wasn't just speaking about ATA. But I'm just going to go ahead because I promised I'm not going to edit this. I had a great response to me announcing that I'm going to be doing the review program with Hunting Gear Deals. I started the Facebook group, Hunting Gear Fanatics, had a bunch of guys and a couple gals join, and gotten several applications in already, but I'm definitely still looking for more. So if that's something you're interested, please join that group, send me an application. And I've had tons of encouragement from different people, congratulating me and going out on my own and that kind of stuff. And I really appreciate that. Depending on how long this goes, me talking about how to save on gear, maybe I'll get back around and kind of talk about how the rest of the ATA went and a little bit more about how the Hunting Gear Deals thing is going to work, and also maybe a little bit about my personal situation, how it's going to work going out on my own. But I want to go ahead and get into how to save on this because I have some really good stuff, and I want as many of y'all to hear it as you can. So basically, with hunting season wrapping up, this is the time of year when you can really save big on a lot of gear. And some of the best savings that you're going to get are not going to be through Hunting Gear Deals, although I'd love for you to keep checking the website because there's a lot of stuff you can through online retailers. But the local retail stores are all going to be trying to get rid of all their hunting stuff, especially stores that are not outdoor stores. So the first store I want to tell you about is Walmart. Obviously, y'all all know about Walmart, but usually around this time of year, and it depends on when the hunting season is where you're at, but usually a week or two after the hunting season's up, Walmart is going to start offering clearance prices on their hunting gear. And a lot of times it's, you're paying like 25% of the retail price, especially when it comes down to like scents or mineral blocks or stuff that is, lower cost items and that kind of stuff. Broadheads are usually discounted quite a bit. Arrows, archery stuff, most of the time is, if it's not already discounted, that's one of the first things to go. So make sure you're checking your local store. Whenever you're going to the Walmart, head back to the hunting gear section if you don't do that every time anyway. And check on those prices. A lot of times on forums and stuff, people will post to what they find online. So that's a good place to look as well. So Walmart's the first one, but there's tons of other retailers that are great to check too. When you're just driving by one, maybe just stop by and check, because say for the next, I would say 3 to 4 weeks, it's the time to do it. Dick's is another one. I know there's a lot of controversy involving Dick's with their gun stances, and a lot of you probably wouldn't go into a Dick's store if they're handing all the stuff out for free. But some people just want a good deal and aren't as concerned about that. So if you're one of those people, a lot of times they're offering good discounts, 50% off on a lot of their stuff. Another one's Academy, the Rural King, if you got those around you, Tractor Supply, basically any store that does not sell hunting gear year-round or is not a big part of their business is going to be trying to clear this stuff out because they need to make room for whatever else they're going to be trying to sell in the next season. So to them, if they sell it 50% off and they get it out of the store, it's worth it. Some of these things you can get as much as 90% off. The next thing is Amazon, which this is a place where hunting gear deals does really come in handy. Cameron and I really try to keep an eye on what's going on Amazon. We don't catch everything, but Amazon's a great place to get discounts on stuff right now because as a guy who sells on Amazon, and I'm not selling hunting gear on there right now, but I can tell you Amazon charges a lot for storage fees. So these people realize, hey, the season's winding down. I need to get this out of there. It's the same thing for Amazon. Amazon actually buys a lot of this stuff and sells it themselves. And a lot of times you can get stuff 80, 90% off. And what happens is there's a waterfall effect where one or two sellers lower their price on it, and suddenly a bunch of them lower their price. The other thing is some people will go to those retail stores we just talked about, and they'll buy a bunch of something, and they're just going to turn around and sell it on either Amazon or eBay. So even though you might not have the local store where you catch the deal or something, you might, maybe it's sold for 60% off in the store, but you might still be able to get it for like 30 or 40% off on Amazon or eBay because those people aren't keeping it. They're turning around and reselling it just to make a little bit of money on the side. So definitely be keeping an eye out on that. Online retailers also are clearing stuff out. Sometimes the deals aren't quite as good as the local stores because they're not quite as motivated, but everybody wants to get rid of their hunting gear. And a lot of times, we just had ATA. We got the SHOT Show going on right now. So not only are they just clearing out hunting gear, period, but they're clearing out last year's models of everything because they got new stuff coming in. So it's just a really good time to be able to do that. Online retailers, Gander Outdoors is a really good one. Walmart, again. Under Armour usually has some deals. And then, with winter wrapping up as well. So maybe not this, these few weeks, but you go maybe get closer to March. A lot of times you can save really good on winter clothes that maybe aren't camo, but like on backcountry or Steep and Cheap or some of those more Western style things. And if you're planning a Western hunt, you definitely need to be thinking about this stuff now because you can save a ton by planning ahead. If you wait until the summer to buy this stuff, it's going to cost you a lot more. Tents, all that kind of stuff. You don't want to buy that when it's about to be the right season for it. So anyway, you can buy winter, basically layering type clothes. You can buy your under layers. You can buy base layers. That's the word for under layers. You can buy puffy jackets, all that kind of stuff that's not camoed, but a lot of times you're going to be covering that up anyway. You can get really good deals on that. The next thing I want to talk about is eBay. And eBay's kind of fallen out of style with Amazon because basically Amazon is so easy to search and it's such a good platform. But if you're a new hunter, Amazon does not do used stuff as well. So if you're trying to save some money, you definitely can do well on eBay. And one way to do that is you can set up a search and notify function where, let's say you're looking for a lone wolf tree stand. You can actually have, every time somebody lists something within a certain price range in the hunting category even, you can get an email or a notification on your phone. So whatever it is that you're looking for, if it's, a tree stand or some climbing sticks or even like trail cameras, if you're looking for used stuff, and especially if let's say you want Reconyx cameras, but you don't feel like you can afford them, well, that's an option you can do there too. And the good thing is, Amazon and eBay, they have great return policies. So the only thing with eBay is you need to check and see what the return policy is before you go ahead and buy it, because some people have, they don't charge you shipping for returns and it's no questions asked, versus some people is you have to pay the shipping, and some people won't take any returns regardless. A lot of times the people that won't take returns for anything is for clothing or something, because they don't want to be stuck paying for it if the thing doesn't fit. So make sure you're checking those. eBay also has some really good discount codes. It seems like at least once or twice a month, and we're listing these on hunting gear deals when they happen, but anywhere from like 10 to 20% off of different categories. And that's, pretty widespread. So the deals on eBay are usually pretty good, pretty competitive prices. But if you can tack an extra 20% off on top of that, and a lot of times it even counts for used gear. So I'd keep an eye out for that. And the last thing on eBay is gift cards. If you know you're going to be going into a store, you can get a discount on your gift cards. Now, we were listing for quite a while. You could buy Cabela's cards for up to 20% off. And I haven't really been seeing that deal lately ever since they merged with Bass Pro. But I do know you can still buy them from individuals. Those cards were at 20% off. There was almost like an unlimited amount of them. They just kept getting listed. And somehow somebody was able to buy them direct from Cabela's. But it seemed that was like for corporate giveaways and that kind of stuff. It seems like that's kind of dried up for the time being. So I don't know if that's going to be back around or not. But still, you could say buy a $500 gift card and get it for $450 or something like that. And that still kind of goes back to the same thing where eBay is going to stand behind it. So if you get a bogus gift card, you're going to be able to get your money back. All right, the next thing I want to talk about is this is not so much where you can save money in buying it, but this is a way you can actually get extra money to spend on hunting gear, and that's the Amazon credit card. You can sign up for it on Amazon. I'll put a link in the show notes. I don't know exactly what you need to type in to do it, but I've got that card, and it's a Chase card, and I get 5% cash back on every Amazon purchase I make. So basically, you're taking an extra 5% off anything you buy hunting gear wise on Amazon, but also anything else you go and you buy, you can put towards buying more hunting gear as well. And we also get 2% back on most other purchases. Some stuff's maybe 1%, but as far as like a rewards card go, it's really good. And the only caveat is you've got to use that as your primary card on Amazon. So I pay my credit card off every month. I don't really encourage people to buy stuff on credit card and hunting gear, on your credit card. Buy what you can afford. But if it's something where you can be paying it off every month, then the benefits of that 5% are really, really good. So that's something else I'd recommend. Another thing that can get you more money for this type of stuff is there's something called Google Opinion Rewards. It's an app you can get on, I know you for sure you can get on Android. I'm guessing you probably get on iPhone as well. But all it is you got to be cool with Google tracking you, which you probably, if you got a smartphone, you got something tracking you anyway. But basically, Google will notify me like, hey, have you been to this store lately? Most of the questions are like, hey, have you been to this store? And did you make a purchase with a credit card? And then that's it. And a quick survey like that, where it's going to be 3 questions, pays like 30 cents. And if, let's say you stay in a hotel, if you do like business travel or something, you're staying in a hotel a lot, this is a really good way to add up quick, because like doing a review for a hotel is worth $1. But all it is, you just get a notification on your phone that there's a review to do. You fill out the review real quick. Most times it takes 10 seconds or less. Sometimes if it's a bigger one, maybe it takes you a minute or two. But in the last year, I've probably got $20 something in that. So, and what it does is that gives you Google Play money, which you could spend on silly games, or you could use that maybe to go towards the Onyx Hunt app, which you could get $30 your home state for that. So basically, if you fill out those rewards and you're like pretty diligent about it, especially if you go around to a lot of different places, you could basically get the Onyx Hunt app for free every year if you're diligent about it. So that's another thing. Check the local, whatever your forums that you're on is a great place to buy hunting gear as well. Archery Talk is a really good forum for buying used gear. There's a ton of people on there. It might not be the best place to talk about whether crossbows should be legal or antler point restrictions or whatever else is going to offend a bunch of people, but it is a really good place, especially for bow hunters, to swap archery gear. A lot of times gear nuts are on there. They got to buy the latest, greatest thing, and they're just selling off their used stuff, which is another point as well. if you have used stuff, if you got stuff in your garage you're not using anymore, camo or hunting stands or whatever, trail cameras, you ought to be selling that stuff. Whatever, if it's just sitting getting old, you ought to sell it so you can buy some new stuff. That's something Adam talks about quite a bit. Adam likes trying a lot of different camo stuff. So he's talked to me about whenever he switches, he will sell the stuff on most likely Archery Talk. But I know there's a lot of other places as well. So that's a good way to make some extra money to do that. Facebook groups is kind of becoming a new place to do that a lot too. I see a lot of gear listed on Facebook. So just as if you're joining those groups, whatever you're active in, a lot of times it might not even hurt just to start a post saying, hey, I'm interested in buying this. How can we save some money? The next thing is Craigslist and Letgo. I guess I'll just go through these slowly so you can, if you're not familiar with them, but there's a ton of apps like Craigslist where local people are offering stuff up for sale, and you can get some really good deals on this kind of stuff. That's how I got my first bow, was on Craigslist. Unfortunately, at the time, I didn't know a whole lot about archery. It turns out I got pretty lucky that I got a bow that fit me, and I could use it for a lot of years. But Craigslist, there's another one, Letgo, which is maybe the most popular right now. OfferUp. Facebook Marketplace is becoming really popular. And one of the reasons for that is there's actually like your Facebook account is tied to it. So Craigslist is kind of random. You just get a phone call or an email, versus Facebook, you can kind of see that it's, you can see how shady the person is before you make a deal with them. There's another new one called Virage. Like it's Virage, like garage, except virtual. And then another really good thing, if this works out for you, and this is tough for me being like in a city where there's not a lot of hunting stuff nearby. But if you can go to local garage sales, the people I talk to that get the best deals are usually at local garage sales, because a lot of times the people that are selling the stuff don't even have any idea what they have. They might have a really expensive tree stand or some old trail cameras or camo or whatever. And maybe it's somebody that got a divorce or something and the wife is selling all this stuff. I don't know. But a lot of times you can get some really, really good deals on that stuff because they don't even know what they've got. And the last one I want to talk about is thrift stores, which, going back to what I was just talking about, I don't have like a lot of thrift stores locally where you can buy there. There's a ton of hunting gear because there's not a big hunting market around here. But what you can get at thrift stores is you can get like layering type stuff the same way. And you can get some really high end stuff that, from brand names that people just donate. A lot of times, like, if you're ever like in a ski town or something, that's a really great place to do it because people spend tons of money on that kind of stuff and then they just give it away in those type of areas. But go to like the nicer thrift stores. There'll be like brand name stuff like merino wool. Or, a good alternative to merino is alpaca. And, there'll be like sweaters and stuff, which if you're just trying to build up your layers and you're on a budget, that's a great place you can save some money. Especially the wool, you should have some less of that thrift store stink in it, but all that stuff washes out. And I guess finally, the thing I want to talk about is don't forget all of these things I just talked about. Let's say you're finding some deals on this stuff, but you already have what you need in there. It could be from your local retail store or something you find on Amazon or Craigslist or, even the thrift store. You can, if you don't need that stuff, go ahead and buy it anyway, and you can sell it online, which is going to be basically take that money, turn around and buy what you actually want. So anytime you find a deal on stuff, just think about, where you could sell. A lot of times you could just list it on a forum or that local Facebook marketplace is a great place to do stuff like that. And take advantage of that because a lot of times, who knows who's going to get it. And, I hate to like take a deal out of it. Let's say I wouldn't have another hunter standing next to me and he really needs a tree stand or something. I'm going to yank it out from underneath him. But, chances are it's going to be a good chance if something's in a really cheap deal or something like that, somebody else is going to buy it and resell it. Maybe not even a hunter. So, I would just encourage you to be on the lookout for that kind of stuff. So, this actually went pretty quick. I think I had a lot of really good tips here. I hope so. I hope everybody is able to learn something from it. If this is something that you thought was beneficial, first of all, I would really like your feedback on this. This episode is going to be a little bit shorter, so let me know what you think about that. Let me know if you're able to learn anything, and hopefully this helps you find some deals on stuff. If you have any advice for me about how I can do these like solo podcasts better, if it was good, if there's a word that I said a bunch of times over and over, or whatever the problems are, just let me know. I'm not even going to go back and listen to this. I'm just going to post it because I really need to get another episode out for you guys. So I'm really looking forward to hearing what you have to say about that. And I guess the last thing is if you think it was helpful, let whatever other podcasts you listen to or something, it would be pretty good for me able to share, what I'm doing and that kind of stuff on there. And I think this might be a good topic to share on some other podcasts. So if there's another podcast you listen to, reach out to whoever it is that does it and tell them that it's something I could come on and talk to them about. So those are a few things that I would really appreciate. It'd be really cool if you could help me out with that. So I guess I told you at the beginning of the show that I would talk a little bit more about the ATA show and the things that I'm working on. So I guess what I'll start with is, as far as like getting things set up for the hunting gear deals and the review program, it was a huge success in my mind. I think I probably made contacts with probably like 100 different companies. And obviously some of these are like major like conglomerate companies that have like thousands of different items that could be reviewed. And, some companies were more open to it than others, but I would say in general, there was a strong interest in it. So I don't think there's going to be problems getting gear to get reviewed. And like I said, based on the feedback we've got, or not the feedback, but the response I've gotten so far, there's like a solid amount of hunters who are interested in doing reviews as well. I've gotten a few of the applications in. Some of them have on the application, what I want from you is a sample review. So these companies that I'm going to asking for gear need to have a confidence that the people that are writing this are going to do a good job with it. If they're giving out free gear, they're going to want a solid review. And I can't promise them that, exactly what's going to be said by the reviewer, because I want it to be an honest review. But I do want to be able to give them confidence that it's going to be well written and detailed and that kind of stuff. And the worst thing for me to happen is me send out gear to people and not get a review back. That looks bad. That doesn't work out well for me, and it looks bad to the reviewer. So what I'm looking for is on this application is to get a sample review from basically the people that are applying. And I've gotten some of those back yet, and some of those have been tremendous. So I'm really excited about that, but don't let that turn you off if you haven't applied yet, because like I said, I've got tons and tons of companies that I think I can get this lined up with. So go ahead. That's the Hunting Gear Fanatics, and go ahead and reach out to me. If you're not on Facebook, that's not like the only way we could do this. So I think I mentioned this on the last podcast, but my email is mike@huntinggeardeals.com. Just shoot me an email if you want to do it and you're not on Facebook or you don't want to join the group or whatever. That's no problem. The other thing is you can reach out to me on social media as well. So already we've got the Down S Hunt on Twitter. We've got Down South Hunt on Instagram and Facebook. So those are really good places to reach out. Or you can friend me on Facebook. It's Mike Higman on Facebook. And I also have Hunting Gear Deals on social media as well. So that's Deer Deal on Twitter and Hunting Gear Deals on Instagram. And there's also a page on Facebook as well. So tons of ways to get a hold of me. And like I said, I really appreciate the response we got last week. And speaking of responses we've got, I went back and started looking through some of the reviews that we've had lately. And I think we're up over like 150 reviews. And Adam, I try not to harp on that too much just because I think it's annoying, when you hear it too much. So I just want to say thank you for that. Please continue to do it if you haven't done it yet. We really appreciate it. But the biggest thing you can do is just keep listening, subscribe, and share it with your friends for us. I guess, here's something I wanted to talk about is my Primalock bags, which I talked about a while back. That's one of the products that I'm selling on Amazon. Unfortunately on those, it turns out like it's a really competitive market. And I think what I did is I got those things custom printed, which cost me extra. And it's a really competitive market with some sellers that have been on there a long time. So basically I'm having to advertise quite a bit to get the sales up. And long story short, I'm not making any money on it. So I am going to be selling out of those, and it's something that I definitely could go back into in the future. But if that's something you're interested in, now is a good time to do it. And I would say do it sooner than later, because what I'm doing is, as my inventory is going down, I'm raising the price, trying to recoup some of that money. But don't let me saying I'm losing money on them stop you, because the longer they're in Amazon, that's going to be tougher for me. So, and the other thing is, if it turns out like towards the end I can get some good momentum going with it, that might be something I come back and look at later, because it's a good high volume market. It's just very competitive. So, we'll see where that goes. But if you haven't got some bags yet and you need some, I'd really appreciate that. And I still would appreciate if you leave me a review, because if it's something I do get back into, it'll be good to have that all set up. I guess now I'll just talk about a few different things at the ATA show that I liked, and I've shared some of that on social media, but I'm going to be sharing that some more. So follow Hunting Gear Deals on Instagram if you want to see some videos of some of this stuff. I did look at the Lone Wolf custom gear, and I guess I don't want to spend a ton of time on that, because I feel like a lot of other people already have. But I will mention some quick thoughts on it. I think maybe we talked about this in the last podcast. They have some really cool, innovative stuff. Like you could tell they're serious hunters, and they put a lot of thought into it. They have the tree stand. They've got tree sticks. They've got a saddle stand, for saddle hunters. They've got trail cameras. They've had a new arrow system. And I think there might even be in like one or two other things. It was just crazy the amount of stuff they had. But the thing about it is it all wasn't like quite ready yet. And I'll say for me personally, I've followed the Hunting Beast for a long time and Dan Infault. And when it comes to the stick and stand, like looking at the stuff, I don't know how biased I am, but I do like Dan's stuff that he's got. The Beast sticks are really cool. They've got a double step, which I like. I think that's better for saddle hunting. And his stand is not available yet, but the Lone Wolf custom tree gear, Lone Wolf custom, I think it is, tree stands, their stuff's not ready yet either. So a lot of the stuff was close, but not quite there. So it'll be interesting where that goes. The good thing about them coming out with that stuff is it's like pushing innovation and pushing the industry. So, them selling that stuff, it's pretty high dollar, but, a lot of that stuff, you probably only need one tree stand if you're going to be a mobile hunter. So, that might be something. I think people kind of go in stages of buying hunting gear, and, maybe it's not the first stand you buy. But, when you figure out your hunting style and that kind of stuff, it might be the perfect stand for what you do. A couple other things I thought were cool. This is like a kind of a random thing. The problem is I can't remember what we talked about with Cameron. It was like 2 weeks ago, but like the last couple of weeks have been such a whirlwind. But there was a saw blade. I think I did talk about this already, but I think it was really cool. Oh, I talked about, what I did? I talked about this on the Southern Outdoorsman podcast, because I was on with those guys while I was at the show, which, by the way, while I was at the show, I was able to meet a ton of cool people. I met all the guys from the Tethered crew. I hung out with Dan Johnson from Nine Fingers and Garrett from DIY Hunter. A lot of like cool people. It's just cool to get to meet people. And unfortunately, it's not a consumer show, so it's not something that just everybody can go to. And it's also not cheap. I mean, even as me going as media, it still costs $150 to go, and plane tickets and all that stuff. So it's a pretty serious commitment to go. But it was pretty cool to get to hang out with all those guys. Everybody I met was really cool. The show is huge. There's like just the amount of vendors there is ridiculous, but the amount of people isn't. And one thing is, I don't have cable. I don't watch a ton of outdoor TV. So there's a lot of times where I'm pretty sure I was passing famous people in the walkways and that kind of stuff, and just didn't recognize them. But, some of the people I did talk to, I talked to T-Bone from Bone Collector, and he was really cool. It was just, really, it's just pretty laid back. So, and along with that, I was able to line up some podcast interviews like we were talking about. So I'm pretty excited about that. So I was just talking about gear again, though. So the thing I want to tell you about is it's basically a saw broadhead that you can, screw onto the end of your bow to cut limbs and stuff, which it's basically like a Sawzall blade with the insert, where you can screw into your and is a broadhead. It's something like really easy to carry around in your pack and really light. So I thought it was pretty cool just for like cutting little limbs and stuff that you can't reach. There were a couple different companies that had lighted knocks out that you can actually turn off just with your fingers. So I think that's kind of, I'm guessing based on what I saw, those were probably out last year and maybe I didn't know about it. But because there were several companies doing it, they were able, kind of figure out some of the problems. So I think some of the issues with those is they might turn on when you're putting them on your arrow, and several of those companies were able to solve that. So I would keep an eye out for that. That'd be great for practicing. One thing I didn't like about trying to practice with lighted knocks is trying to figure out turning them off, and you just have to plan ahead and that kind of thing. But I do think it's pretty useful to be able to see your arrow in flight while you're practicing. Sitka has some really cool new stuff coming out specifically for like whitetail hunters. They had several packs too, but their Fanatic system, they've improved it. There's some things where, it doesn't catch on briars and that kind of stuff as much. So keep an eye out for that. But that does kind of go back to what I was talking about earlier. Maybe you can't afford the brand new Sitka stuff, but right now we've got links up on Hunting Gear Deals. You can save like 20 or 30% now buying last year's gear because they're clearing that all out, making room for this year. And yes, it may not be as cool as this year's stuff, but last year everybody was raving about that same stuff. So, maybe it's not in your budget to spend whatever it is, $400 or $500 on that kind of stuff. What else? This is kind of funny. I tried like several bows. I've never owned a bow that hasn't been owned by somebody else first. So I've never gone and like shop for a new bow. So I tried some new bows. And I'm not even like go through like who they were or anything because honestly, like I can tell you all the ones I tried were way better than what I'm currently shooting. Some of them more so than others. I know I shot one from Elite that was really, really smooth. I think I shot one from Prime that was really smooth. I shot one from Matthews. That was their new model. Just, it's crazy comparing them to what I'm using. But for me, I'm not to the point where it's worth spending $1,200 or $1,000 for something that shoots smoother. I don't feel like I'm being limited by my bow at this point. I'm being limited by, I'd like to say, the habitat I'm hunting and the lack of opportunities. But honestly, I'm also being limited by my skill. One, as an archer, and two, as just a hunter in general, getting closer to enough to kill stuff. So, I'm looking forward to in several years when those bows are a lot cheaper, then I'll be able to get one of those and it'll be worth it for me. So I hope this is something you've enjoyed. I'm not going to sit here and try to remember a bunch of other stuff since I don't have any other notes on the ATA show. I really appreciate everybody's support. I'm looking forward to getting Adam and Kyle on with me next week. I'm hoping in the next week to do another episode of do an interview that I've got coming up. This like solo thing is not my new plan for the podcast. But it's something that maybe we'll keep trying if you give me some good feedback, and give me some bad feedback too if you got it, because I don't want to waste my time doing these if nobody wants to listen to them. But hopefully this is something you found helpful and enjoyed. Thank you so much for the support. Like I said, I've got a ton of it in the last week. I really appreciate it. And with that, I'm out down south.